For more than 150 years, the Tata name has represented something incredibly powerful in India. Trust. Salt, steel, software, cars, airlines, hotels, and some of India's most respected brands. But today, one of India's most admired business groups is facing a problem that has very little to do with its products. The problem is inside the boardroom. Tata Sons, the holding company of the entire Tata Group, is going through a major leadership and governance crisis. And at the center of it is one man, Chandrasekaran. So what exactly is happening inside Tata? And should ordinary Indians, investors and entrepreneurs actually be worried? Let's understand. Chandrasekaran has been chairman of Tata Sons since 2017. Under his leadership, the Tata Group expanded aggressively into areas including semiconductors, electronics, aviation, and artificial intelligence. But in August 2026, Chandrasekaran announced that he would not seek another term as chairman when his current term ends in February 2027. The announcement immediately shocked the market. Tata Company shares came under pressure, with TCS falling particularly sharply after the news. Reuters reported that investors were concerned about certainty surrounding the group's leadership and strategic direction. But here is where the story gets really interesting. Chandrasekaran's departure doesn't appear to be simply a normal retirement. Behind it is a much deeper disagreement involving Tata Sons, Tata Trust, and the future direction of the conglomerate. And this is where you need to understand how Tata is structured. Unlike companies controlled by a single billionaire or family, Tata has a very unusual ownership structure. The Tata Trust collectively control roughly 2/3 of Tata Sons, and Tata Sons sits at the center of the Tata Group. So the people controlling the trust have enormous influence over the future of the entire conglomerate. And the person currently heading Tata Trust is Noel Tata, the half-brother of the late Ratan Tata. Reports indicate that disagreements emerged over several strategic questions. One major issue has been the future of Tata Sons itself, including the long-running question of whether Tata Sons should eventually be publicly listed. There have also been disagreements over strategy, capital allocation, and the future direction of some major businesses. And then something extraordinary happened. The Tata Sons board itself reportedly became divided over Chandrasekaran's decision. Some directors reportedly wanted him to reconsider his decision rather than simply accept his departure. Think about that for a moment. The chairman says he is leaving. Some directors apparently don't want him to leave. The controlling trusts are involved in a succession process. And Tata still has to decide who will lead one of the India's largest and most strategically important business groups. But that is not the only problem. There is also a governance issue inside Tata Trust itself. One of the major shareholder trust, the Sir Ratan Tata Trust, has faced regulatory restrictions affecting its ability to formally conduct trustee meetings. That created an unusual problem for Tata Sons because the trust participation is important for shareholder decisions and the succession process. In fact, Tata Sons' annual general meeting scheduled for August 18 has been surrounded by questions over quorum and shareholder representation. That is an extraordinary situation for a group of Tata's size and reputation. But here's the bigger question. Why does the leadership of Tata Sons matter so much? Because Tata isn't simply trying to maintain the businesses it already owns. It is entering one of the most capital-intensive periods in its history. The group is investing heavily in semiconductors, electronics, aviation, AI infrastructure, and manufacturing. Tata Electronics is developing semiconductor capabilities. Air India is undergoing a massive transformation. TCS is dealing with the disruption created by generative AI, and Jaguar Land Rover has been dealing with its own operational and cyber challenges. So this is happening at precisely the moment when Tata needs extremely strong strategic leadership, and that creates a fascinating dilemma. Should Tata continue Chandrasekaran's aggressive investment strategy? Should it slow down and focus on profitability? Should it restructure some businesses? Should Tata Sons eventually go public? And perhaps the biggest question, who should make these decisions? The professional management, the Tata Sons board, or the Tata Trust, which control the holding company? This is where Tata's unique governance model becomes both its greatest strength and potentially its greatest weakness. For decades, the trust structure helped protect the Tata name from short-term pressures. But when the people responsible for ownership and the people responsible for management disagree, decision-making can become complicated. And Tata has experienced leadership battles before. The most famous example was the dramatic removal of Cyrus Mistry as Tata Sons chairman in 2016. That episode eventually became one of the biggest corporate governance battles in modern Indian business. Now, a decade later, Tata is once again facing a leadership transition under intense scrutiny. But let's be very clear, this does not mean Tata Group is collapsing. Its operating companies remain enormous businesses with independent management teams, valuable brands, and millions of customers. The issue is not whether Tata will suddenly disappear. It won't. The real issue is whether Tata can maintain strategic coherence and governance stability while simultaneously investing hundreds of billions of rupees into the businesses of the future. And that matters far beyond Tata, because Tata is effectively an institution within India's economy. It employs hundreds of thousands of people directly and indirectly. Its companies are listed on Indian stock exchanges. It is becoming increasingly important to India's semiconductor and manufacturing ambitions. And its success or failure in these new businesses could influence India's broader industrial strategy. So perhaps the biggest lesson here isn't about Tata at all. It is about succession. Every great business eventually faces the same question. What happens when the person running it leaves? A company can have brilliant products, huge revenues, a powerful brand, and enormous financial resources. But if leadership succession is unclear, internal disagreements can suddenly become a strategic risk. That is why Tata's current crisis is worth watching. Not because Tata is finished, but because one of the India's greatest business institutions is entering a completely new chapter. The question now isn't simply who will replace N. Chandrasekaran. The bigger question is what kind of Tata Group will emerge after him. Will it remain the professionally managed global conglomerate that Ratan Tata and his successors built? Will the Tata Trust exercise greater influence? Will Tata accelerate its bets on semiconductors, AI and aviation? Or will the group rethink its strategy? One thing is certain, the Tata story isn't ending, but one of its most important chapters is coming to an end. And the next chapter could determine what Tata becomes for the next 50 years. What do you think? Is this simply a normal leadership transition, or is Tata facing a much deeper governance crisis? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.